David, let's move on to the issue of concrete of a certain kind and school buildings.
Yes, so this was first mentioned by Debi Evans in her blog back in September 2022, when she reported an Operation Rapture. I wonder who named that one. Operation Rapture would come into effect should hospitals collapse, she wrote. Concerns about reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete planks were first raised in 2018. So this issue has rather blown up over the last few days. So here we see the BBC reporting school closures. Dozens were at risk of collapse, says the BBC, due to risky concrete. More than 100 schools have been told to shut areas affected by reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, RAAC, without safety measures in place. It follows the collapse last week of a beam, I would question whether that's actually correct, previously thought to be safe. So there's been a single incident, and this has thrown the whole thing into panic. So a little more on what this problem is technically. Here we have a report from the Standing Committee on Structural Safety. They report the background to this. In the 1980s, there were many instances of failure of RAAC roof planks. So these are planks that span between main beams, forming flat roof structures. Installed during the mid-1960s, and a large proportion of such installations were subsequently demolished. They go on to say what the warning signs are, so that if there's a problem with these planks, there tends to be cracking and disruption, a lot of deflection. The fact that some of them have a small bearing width is a sign of they're more likely to be a problem. If the roof has been resurfaced, load added, etc., if there's ponding on the roof, or if the roof is leaking, all of these are warning signs. And they also go on to explain what this material is. And I think we should just take a moment to understand what we're actually dealing with. So autoclaved aerated concrete is different from normal dense concrete. It has no coarse aggregate. It is made in factories using fine aggregate and a chemical to create gas bubbles and heat to cure the compound. It is weak and has low capacity for developing bond with embedded reinforcement. When it's used to form structural units, the protection of the reinforcement against corrosion is provided by a bitumen or cement latex coating applied to the reinforcement before it's cast in, because the actual structure, which is like Aero chocolate, doesn't provide any protection of the reinforcement against rusting. So we've got here a little photograph to show what the material looks like, and you see Aero is quite a good description of it. And you see also here an example of the failure that gave rise to the 2018 report, and the failure that's circled is the diagonal crack that indicates shear cracking. That's a particular concern because you don't get much warning of that sort of failure. Now, the response politically has been strange. So here we see the Times reporting concrete closures. Tories ignored the RAAC risk. And a civil servant's come out and said that ministers ignored pleas to rebuild more schools despite warning that crumbling concrete posed a critical risk to life. A former civil servant has said. This is Jonathan Slater. He blames Sunak for cutting repair budgets even further, accusing ministers of a political decision to prioritise new free schools over repairing dangerous buildings. I would point out, and I hate having to defend Rishi Sunak because I don't want to do it, but that's garbage, right? The buildings weren't known to be dangerous because otherwise a whole raft of legislation governing dangerous buildings would have swung into action and they wouldn't have been allowed to remain open. The critical risk to life statement is completely hyperbolic. This is seeking to smear Rishi Sunak with this problem, which is odd. Someone's taken a political decision to do that. Moving on to building design, they're saying, well, what's actually happened? Well, we've got 156 schools have got this material in them. 52 were deemed a critical risk, and safety measures have been put in place. The remaining 104 are non-critical, but have to be vacated and restricted until appropriate mitigation is in place. And the Department of Education said that new evidence had emerged over the summer, which required buildings to close immediately. So this is something that's happened very recently. The Independent gives a clue that one beam, so one failure somewhere, and I don't think it would be a beam because that's not what this material was used for, forced over 100 schools to close. So they report that a minister has revealed that one collapsed beam in a school sparked the emergency decision to halt the return to classrooms for 100 schools. Now, we have more. What I'll do is I'll go through. I've got a little bit more, and I'll go through that in extra. If we can go forward to what the chief engineer, what was described as the chief engineer, has said. So this is again from the Times. He said, the Times reports, we knew decades ago, says actually the former president of the Institution of Structural Engineers, that RAAC has been missold by manufacturers since the late 1960s. Some of us, in fact, quite a lot of us at the time, wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, said Dr. John Roberts. Now, this is quite right. This is true. It was known to be a problem. It's been known to be a problem all of my career in engineering. And it's a problem that has been handled by inspection, by assessment, by judging the risk. And for some reason over the summer, one event, which has not been reported on, and I can find no technical information on so far, we will try and find more, has completely changed the entire approach to managing this problem, kind of like the way that all the medical profession changed when COVID came along. Panic has set in, and we're closing schools left, right, and centre, and this all seems very odd. We certainly need to understand what on earth happened that gave rise to such an apparently panicked and extreme response to a problem that has been known and has been understood and has been managed for 30 years.
Yeah.
We'll find out more if we can.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, thank you, David.